evening. Welcome to The Next Word. I'm your host, Chris Warnke. Charles Schulz, the creator of the Peanuts comic, said, "How can I play baseball when I'm worried about foreign policy?" Well, tonight we have a treat. We have Tony Culley Foster, the CEO of the World Affairs Council here in Washington, D.C., to talk about our foreign policy. So how can I play baseball? And how can we play baseball? I mean, we're all talking about baseball, right?
Baseball involves a ball and a bat. And it involves being able to use both of them.
At the same time?
To put the ball where you want the ball to go,
right,
and accomplish what you've been sent out to do on the baseball field. So I think part of our discussion in America today has to do about not only where do we, you and I, as people who've been part of the political process and been part of voting and part of democratic representation process here, but our young people, where do they form their views with regard to global education, international affairs, global communications, and our diverse, multicultural, and interconnected world?
And you're absolutely right. And well, first of all, the World Affairs Council, it's gone through several kind of name changes and metaphors.
It has.
It has, right?
Yes.
Metamorphosis. But it was
the Foreign Policy
Association.
Yes.
Right?
And was formed just after World War I.
Right.
Really as a result of not wanting to see Americans grow up ignorant of the importance of foreign policy and the importance of international relations to our diverse country as it was developing as a superpower. So
that's so interesting. World War I.
Yeah. And in 1980, the Foreign Policy Association relocated to New York.
Right.
And at that time, they established in the nation's capital the World Affairs Council of Washington, D.C., to be the focal point of their activities in the United States.
Right.
And then in 1986, they looked at the possibility of stitching together a network that was developing across the country of these former foreign policy associations and World Affairs Councils. And so there's an affiliated network of 96 councils.
Oh, there are.
In the
cities
United
throughout
States. In cities throughout the United States. And they are the largest organization as a nonprofit in the U.S. that focuses on global education, international affairs, and global communications. And as you've seen from a lot of articles in the last few years, there's real concern by parents here in Montgomery County, in Maryland, every state across the United States, about the fact that there's a great focus on STEM education, which is important and necessary for us to be competitive and entrepreneurial, both domestically and on the world stage. But there's also a great deal to be said about young people understanding their own history, young people, young professionals going out to the workforce with a global perspective. Where do they get that from at a time when liberal arts education is being reduced in high schools across the United States and in universities across the United States? There was a wonderful feature article in the Washington Post about 2 months ago that showed a young person reaching out towards a door in a university that was marked liberal arts education. Oh. And the parents were holding on to that young person's legs, saying, "Don't go there." And so I think there's going to be a movement in this country that I believe that our World Affairs Council of Washington, D.C. will be a part of, an important part of it. And that is to focus on the benefits of global education in high schools and in undergraduate and graduate programs in universities.
So global education is
Yes.
as a
And then
course.
two, international affairs. And three, really understanding how to use global communications to advance your learning of other people, other cultures, in our diverse, multicultural, interconnected world.
Well, I do agree about that, because you look at what's happening with social media and the use of social media. Has it been used effectively? Or, I mean, we've seen this implosion of social media
We have.
globally.
Yes.
What do you think? I mean, is it good?
There will come a point, I believe, when there will be greater regulation of social media. I think it's a wonderful, powerful tool. There's no excuse for being ignorant anymore if you can Google.
If you can Google, right?
Google has become a verb. And so just as Xerox was a verb when a generation ago. And my sense is that in terms of the work done by the World Affairs Council, Washington, D.C., and its focus on a student to professional journey, we do lots of programs that involve young people from within a 50-mile radius of Washington, D.C.
Including Maryland, of course.
Montgomery County, which is very important to us. And also, we focus on not so much one-off programs, but programs, Christine, that spark the imagination of young people sufficiently that they want to come back to a series of programs throughout an academic year.
That's great.
Or throughout a calendar year. And at the end of that, acquire a credential. Most young people need and want credentials when they're seeking to go after higher education or they're looking for promotion in their work. So we believe in a philosophy of recognizing people to success. And that's an integral part of our multiplier effect, just the same as your kindness inviting me to come on this show tonight with you. I have an opportunity to talk about why a liberal arts education is important. What's the difference between STEM and STEAM? Now we have Korea, we have countries in the Netherlands, we have other nations that have made STEM plus an A into STEAM. And so we are in that latter category. We're big advocates for STEAM.
Interesting.
And Fareed Zakaria has spoken, as you know, eloquently about this whole issue for the last 2-3 years and written a superb book about it. We have an event coming up on March 29th of 2017, which is our annual flagship event
here
for the World Affairs Council, Washington, D.C. It's our World Affairs Council Honors Global Education Gala. And we will recognize 5 exemplars. An Educator of the Year, which this year will be Marymount University. We will recognize the Corporation for Public Broadcasting with our Global Communications Award. We will recognize the nation of Colombia with our Distinguished Diplomatic Service Award. We will recognize an outstanding, iconic world leader in environmental protection and sustainability, Jane Goodall.
Oh, Jane Goodall, really?
She will give our keynote address and receive our Global Ambassadors Award. And our Global Education Award will be going to Blackboard, Inc., which is a global leader in connectivity and has their products and services used in 65% of American universities and about 75% of American school systems. We use this technology to connect young people to interface and to share information. When last year, with the support of the MasterCard Foundation, we established a Global Education Teachers International Exchange Program between Pretoria
that's
and
right.
Johannesburg in South Africa.
I saw that the South Africa.
And the United States.
Right.
And the United States, we had two outstanding high school teachers from Maryland as part of that program. We had two from Washington and one from Virginia, and a curriculum coordinator. And that program is going to be expanded to 10, 12 different countries in the next 4 years.
Wow. What kind of staff do you have for all
A
of this
very
work?
hard-working and
Very
talented
hard-working
staff.
but
We
it's
have a full-time staff of 7.
7?
Yes.
To do all
we
this.
have 24 outstanding interns who come from universities across the United States and internationally to work with us. We have 40 volunteers on a regular basis, and we have a wonderful board of directors, includes some eminent people from not just Washington, D.C. and Virginia and Maryland, but people who are nationally and internationally known. And we have a global advisory council. And then we have a series of strategic partnerships.
Right, right.
So we may be small, but
you're
we're mighty.
You're mighty. Now, do you get a lot of corporate? I'm assuming you get a lot of
We
corporate
get
support.
corporate support.
You get corporate support.
Very strong focus on corporations that have a commitment, an active commitment to social responsibility,
Well, they have to.
leadership.
I mean, to lead the world, to be in the world today, in the market.
Yeah.
You know,
Christine, one of the things that was in our prior conversation that you and I talked about before coming on this show struck a chord with me. And as a result of that, I went out and did a little bit more research.
Oh, good.
And that research was fairly broad, and it focused on what were employers looking for in young people who are coming out of a higher education experience. And it has been validated over and over and over again that headhunters, that people who are interviewing others for jobs are looking at, does this young person have an informed global perspective?
Oh, that's good.
Can they speak another language?
Well, now that's my son.
Can they connect?
So I'm very happy you're saying.
Are you
it's
pitching someone for a job here? I couldn't afford them.
I was going to ask, that was my second question, actually. I was going to ask you about language, because his school here in Washington, they required at least 2 languages: Latin,
Good. Which is
either
foundational
French,
language.
either
Good.
Arabic,
Wonderful.
Chinese,
Yes.
or Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
He had to choose French.
Yeah.
But today, it's one of his majors in college.
Now,
That's-
you've got me at a distinct disadvantage.
I
You
do.
know that I'm an Irishman who's married to a French woman.
Oh, okay.
All
So,
right?
okay, so good. So, my
So
son's
she's from the sunny south of France, and I'm from the rainy
Right.
north of Ireland.
But-
And when you put those two things together, what do you get?
What?
Rainbows
Rainbows, I love it.
and
I love
steam.
it. And steam, I was going to say, and steam. But seriously, I think that's really been very helpful to him. Plus, he's run all these international kind of programs for high school students. UN, Model UN type of programs.
Very
have been
good
involved.
program.
And
Model
the Model
with-
UN programs
yes.
are terrific.
Terrific.
Terrific for these. It's opened up his whole world. Although he's traveled, he traveled
Yes.
from the age of 5, but I mean, all over. And that's tremendously helpful to his perspective
Yes.
on.
Of course it is. Because travel, number one, travel's a great educator.
Right.
So not
Well, for
only
me it was, I mean,
did he participate in a program like Model UN, which is
Right.
outstanding, which I am very proud to be associated
Right.
with, too, on the advisory council of the United Nations network of UN councils across
that's
the
terrific.
U.S.
Model UN's good. I hate to interrupt you, but we have to take a short break and we'll be right back.
Thank you.
Okay. It's so interesting. You're watching The Next Word. We're going to take a short break and we'll be right back.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
Welcome back. I'm your host, Chris Warnke. This is The Next Word, and tonight we're having a fascinating conversation with Tony Culley Foster, CEO of the World Affairs Council. and the importance of why people should be involved in knowing about our foreign policy. And I said before, how can I play baseball and, of course, be worried about foreign policy? And it's true. I mean, we got to worry.
We got to worry because no country's an island anymore.
Nope.
And this country has always reached out to other nations throughout the world, shared its knowledge, shared its wealth, shared its security capabilities, still does.
And by the way, speaking of which, we're exporting so much of that in terms of cyber. I mean, our companies today, our U.S. companies today, of course, are benefiting, as we all know, by this wealth of information and technology, and and because we're now such a global market, so it's
the interconnectedness.
It's the interconnectedness
of it
right.
all, Christine. That's created the genie out of the bottle scenario. Because
it's out, and the genie's out.
Yeah, just as cyber can be used for very positive and good things,
it can be
it
used
can
for
be
very
abused. And this is why I believe that, and I'm a big supporter. I'm a longtime member of the National Press Club, whose #1 priority is the First Amendment. It's freedom of speech,
right.
freedom of expression, and I think that some of what is available on the internet ultimately could be very destructive for individuals and for groups that use it. It's almost like the pendulum has gone too far the other way.
Right.
In no way, shape, or form would advocate restraint on the First Amendment and the ability for free expression. But I think we've got a responsibility to be constructive and factual in how we do that.
Right.
So if we look at this next generation and the population explosion that's going on currently in the world at the moment, we're at 9 million people.
9 billion.
9 billion people.
Right, right.
And
Well, how many millennials? We have like a new, I mean, we have, what, 30?
By another
30,
20 years, we'll
right.
be north of 10 billion
Right,
people
right,
on this planet.
right.
And water,
That's scary. The water.
all of
that's
that, all of those other natural resources will become increasingly competitive
already, I mean,
in terms
look at
of
look at India today.
availability,
Right.
access to
Right.
them. So it's not by accident that Mr. Elon Musk of SpaceX
Yes.
is talking about putting a
Really?
colony on Mars in 30 years, 35 years.
Right.
Might take him 50, but there's got to be a reason he wants to do that.
Right. But look, I've looked at the topics that the World Affairs Council has covered, and I've looked at all the programs you've done. I mean, for a staff of 7 people.
No, but we're not a staff. You've got to
I know
look
you
at
have a
that
global-
larger
you have a
group,
huge-
that
but
larger
still,
group that we have
it's
around.
still, though, I mean, it's so impressive. I mean, every other week you're having a program.
Yeah, and I want to tell you about, thank you for reminding me of something very important. And again, something you and I spoke with when we were talking with one of our board members
Right.
on an ambassador a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
I was very surprised to find out that out of a diplomatic corps of 194, 195 embassies and representative offices in Washington, D.C., only 16 were headed by women
Right.
ambassadors.
Which was, actually, that's more than usual.
Yeah. Well,
That's more than was 10 years
I
ago.
find that
More than.
I find that pretty alarming, and I say that because
Today, you mean?
Yes.
16 today. But
Yeah.
but frankly, that was, I can tell you, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It was a lot less.
Yeah, and the same could be said with respect to female representation in Congress, in cabinet posts, and as you look along and you see a generation has moved along.
Right.
But 16 female ambassadors out of 194, 195, that's pretty low. So I looked at the UN and thought maybe there would be more there.
Are there more there?
There are. There
Oh,
are
there are.
32
Interesting. 32.
out of 198. But that's still very small.
Out of 98.
198.
Oh, 198.
Yeah.
That's still small.
So as you look, and we have just launched, and we did this with Ambassador Al-Magari, whom you know,
Right.
of Oman. last week. We put together 10 one-hour television shows on women ambassadors in the United States, all from foreign countries. She was outstanding. We've also added in the last month 5 serving ambassadors, all of whom on average have had a year, 15 months in Washington.
Right.
For 2 years they will serve on our Global Advisory Council.
Oh, that's great.
So here
You're empowering
the resources are here for us to not only consult with people and have them appear on our television show, which goes out nationwide to about 28, 32 million homes, and also on YouTube and other digital platforms. What we've got an opportunity to do is really leverage the enormous expertise that each of these ambassadors and their staff have to help us advance our mission of global education, international affairs, and global communication. We give them a platform, and we give American audiences an opportunity to act and interact with these people in terms of better understanding their foreign policy, their culture, the U.S. bilateral relationship with that nation, et cetera, et cetera.
And I've noticed that some of your programs recently, they've been with all these women ambassadors. I noticed the ambassador from Finland.
That's correct.
The ambassador from Rwanda.
That's correct.
You've had some wonderful programs,
yeah.
Upcoming ones.
Yeah.
So you're centerpiecing these
yes.
women, which I have to tell you, because you don't know this, but 20 years ago, actually we brought a lot of these women together and we tried to start an organization of women ambassadors in the city.
Yes, I remember that.
At the time, with a woman who at that time was ambassador from Macedonia.
Yes. Well,
and then Singapore. We had the ambassador from Singapore
who was phenomenal.
Phenomenal.
Outstanding.
Remember,
and then you had the ambassador from Liechtenstein, who's just come back. But we have chosen a group of women, each of whom are telling their story about how they got to be a female ambassador in Washington, D.C.
That is a whole case study that should be taught in our our universities, because that is fascinating. I mean, when you think about it.
And it was astonishing for us to see.
Rwanda. I mean, Rwanda. I mean, women. I mean, she's remarkable.
Whose government is predominantly made up of females.
Now that's true. But don't you think that's the exception in Africa?
Yes,
that's the exception. I mean, when you think about it. Which is interesting, actually. Why is that? I think I asked her that.
Yeah, part of it. Part of it, Christine, has to do with, of course, the Rwanda situation of 20 years ago, where there were so many people slaughtered.
The men. And,
the male population was decimated. Yes, but the females also were very badly abused, and I think there was a very strong international push following that, where the West really stood on the sidelines and let that happen. I think to try and redress that, there was significant foreign aid from this country, and others poured into education.
Interesting. Again,
and out of that has become a generation of leaders, women leaders.
Women leaders. Fascinating. Because you don't certainly see that. I mean, well, African women, though, I don't care where they're strong. They're entrepreneurial, the ones I've met, and I've met a lot of them throughout the whole continent.
I was in Cape Town.
I don't know if you agree with that.
Yeah, I do. And I was in Cape Town in May, and I had met the Speaker of the South African Parliament when she was here for the Martin Luther King weekend celebration, representing her country. She was very supportive of us establishing our U.S.-South Africa Global Education Teachers International Exchange Program. And when we went to South Africa, to Pretoria and to Johannesburg, and to Cape Town, we didn't take teachers from the private schools. These were teachers from township schools.
That's great.
So the learning that took place between some of the American teachers and the South African teachers was one that fascinated me because in South Africa, there's 7 tribal languages spoken plus English.
Well, that's small compared to some
And
countries, right?
within those classrooms, what tended to happen in an ethnocentric type way was the kids who came from a certain tribe would stick with the kid from a certain tribe, and they really didn't know their fellow South Africans.
Really?
And we have a global definition of global education that we've been testing throughout the United States and across and other countries in the world. And we have 10 core competencies in global education that can be infused into any existing high school or undergraduate curriculum in any university in the world. And we've had meetings with all kinds of people who want us to come and teach their teachers in terms of continuing education, professional development.
Are you all doing that now?
Yes, we're doing it now. The other thing is that we have established, we researched, why is there so little focus on the teaching of teachers to be competent in teaching global education, international affairs? Well, one thing is, it's done at some of the very top universities and done very well. But for a public school teacher, they can't afford to take a master's program in that. So we have developed our own curriculum in partnership with Marymount University in Virginia. And we launched in August of this year the nation's first, and big letters, affordable graduate certificate in global education. So 2 courses online, one that we teach, one that's on the campus at Marymount. And those public school teachers, for a minuscule fraction of what would be the average cost of pursuing a graduate degree in international affairs, with a great curriculum, great teachers, they get 12 graduate credit hours towards their degree. Now, they don't have to take it at Marymount. They can if they want to, but it gives them, because
that's huge.
I'm very alarmed at teachers being denied an opportunity for graduate or doctoral degrees because of the student debt that they've accumulated from their undergraduate degree.
No.
And so, how can we exist? You're a cosmopolitan person, you're a world traveler, you speak other languages, your parents invested something in you, your teachers invested something in you, but we're not doing that. We're not doing that in the public school systems across the United States. Yes, at private schools, yes, at private colleges, yes, at the top universities, but what we want to do, if people are going to be hired on the basis that employers are looking for young professionals who've got an informed global perspective, young professionals who've got a knowledge of international affairs, young professionals who've got an ability to communicate in a multicultural way with other people. Those are the sort of young ambassadors that we want to go out into the world representing the United States of America.
Which is great. Wish we could talk longer. Let me ask you, if people want to get involved, what do they do? Go online?
Go online and they simply Google www.worldaffairsdc.org.
That's great. Well, look, your programs are incredible. And I congratulate you, the board. I see what you do. It's like every week you have a new program, and it's...
No, we have to. If you stand still, you die.
You die. I love that Irish attitude. Thank you. You've been watching The Next Word. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening. Good night.